All right. I think we're ready to roll.
Okay.
All right, good. So welcome everybody. This is episode 24 of Storycomic Presents, live in my basement. Yeah, I'm in a different room this time. For anybody that's watching it on video, this is my other computer decided to not work on us. That's why we were a little late coming in for the live stream. But we're here, and we're excited to have with us in the room. We're able to have us with. We have Heather Farrington, the acclaimed cartoonist and writer of Juvenile Diversion.
Diversion.
Diversion. Juvenile Diversion. She's also award-winning illustrator as well. We could probably talk about that in a bit. Some of the awards that you've won, some of the art show awards that you've won as well. So, and usually what we do during these interviews, the first part is that I know you, Heather. I know you very well, but for our audience members, some of our listeners and some of our viewers who might be unfamiliar with your work, what I want to do is give you this opportunity to kind of introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you and tell people how you got into cartooning and illustration. So go for it.
All right. So my name is Heather. I also go by HR Farrington on most social media things online. I am a cartoonist and illustrator. I've been doing Juvenile Diversion since I was 18, so a long time. It's about 15 years online, right, as of right now. And then I've also been doing professional illustration more or less for the last few years. I've done illustrations for people in the past, kind of for fun, but it's gotten to be more of an actual job for the last few years, at least since I started doing conventions, which was about 5 years ago almost. I started doing comics just because I've been reading comics since the late 80s, since I was really little. And I kind of just always stuck with it. I just always really enjoyed reading comics, and I've always enjoyed drawing, and I really like drawing cartoons, so it kind of just came together. But I've always wanted to be a writer, and it kind of went from wanting to write for National Geographic to wanting to write for write music and songs when I was in high school. Basically that's where Alicia comes from. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. And then from there I just kind of started drawing cartoons and stuff, and then it became a real comic from there.
So you mentioned too, because you started off, as you said, in doing about 15 years ago or so. You said doing your.
I started creating it in 2003, and then. It's my dog. And then I picked up a couple. For a couple years, I did research and character development and did some plot writing and started doing the comic, and then in 2005 is when it officially went online. In 2004 is when I started drawing the comics, and then I did a backlog and then started uploading them in 2005. And
so you were right there at the beginning, basically, of the beginning of the web comics craze. Is that so? If you started in 2005, it really.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't around that much earlier than that. Probably maybe 5 or 6 years before that it kind of started, but. Yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty early on. So it feels like it was already had gone on for a while, because I was reading webcomics for a few years before that. So, but weird how time works.
So what made you decide to jump straight into doing webcomics instead of going through? Because at that time, people were still doing traditional floppies. And selling them at different conventions and whatnot. So what made you decide to kind of jump right in and start doing webcomics initially as your medium?
That would be my husband Dean's idea. I wanted to do an actual comic book first before anything, and he's like, well, why don't you make it a webcomic, and then you could just upload a page at a time. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Of course, little do I know how much work actually goes into a webcomic. Now, of course, I very much know.
So talk to us a bit about that. As somebody who would be watching or listening, who says, listen, I got some great ideas. I started drawing stuff. I got things, on my tablet, or I got things drawn out I got a stack of paper of all these ideas. I don't even know the first way to get into start making it into a web comic. What would be your advice for those folks that are just starting out doing web comics?
Oh, there's so much different advice. I think the few main things I would say would be, one, save everything. Like, even if you're drawing it on paper or drawing it on the computer, save everything as a high resolution. Like, please, like, because I'd made the mistake of not doing that in the beginning, and I'm redoing all the pages. I have 4 books published now that are all basically remasters of the first 100 pages so far. I'm doing 10 chapters eventually, and then eventually I'm gonna like kind of merge into doing publishing what I already have like made and not redoing it, but we'll see down the road. But yeah, definitely save high resolution. Draw at the same size, like for each, like be consistent about your pages. Like, it doesn't matter what size you make your book, because you can make it square or long or rectangular or a wide rectangle or a tall, horizontal or vertical. It doesn't matter, as long as they're all the same consistency throughout the book, because you'll like kick yourself later if you do different sizes, and it'll be really hard to fit everything. Because I also did that too, and I redid the pages so there were just one page, or I had to split them up into 2, but that way it like made a lot more sense. Just, and also just like, don't like force yourself to like do something you don't want to. Don't like stick with the schedule, but if you don't think you can keep that schedule, like just do something that's going to work for you. Like, I've been doing every Friday for pretty much the last 15 years, other than 2 summers I did Tuesdays as well, but I was not putting as much work into it then. So now I spend pretty close to a full day doing a page. So, and I have a full-time job on top of that. So usually one of my days off goes to making a comic. So, but yeah, like, try to stick with your schedule, like try to be consistent, like treat it as it is a job, because I think of it as my job. So, but try to like just keep, if you can only do it like every other week, that's fine. But like, tell people that it's going to be every other week, or 2 or 3 times a month, or whenever, whatever you can do. I think if people enjoy your comic, enjoy your story, that they're going to stick around.
And so and one of the points about of your comic, it's a long form story. It's so what are some of the what would you consider some of the benefits and some of the of being able to tell a long form story as compared to some of the things you'd find on Instagram that are just like these like 4 square joke comics, for instance?
I mean, I like both. Well, I do like the gag-a-day things, but I also like the long format ones too, because personally, I think you can get a lot more out of it emotionally, and you can just it pay off, I feel like. It's a lot of work. That's like the main, I think that's the biggest like amount of work, is putting all the writing in. And Dean writes the comic with me. I didn't mention that before, but I'm the artist of everything, but he co-writes it with me. And basically what we do is we put together this like whole slew of like storylines, and then we try to like piece them together, and over time, maybe like years down the road, you could like find out what that thing meant like a couple years ago. So it's totally, I think the payoff is like sometimes like well worth, like sometimes it can take a really long time, but we have stuff like starting to like pop up now that is like, oh, that's what that was, without spoiling anything.
So we had it on a couple months ago. We had Matt and Teresa on, which are also a couple that works together on that, and so I want to ask you the same question: is what do you and Dean? So do you guys have it scripted out, outlined out? How do you actually plan out Juvenile Diversion? So you have it now. How far out is your story going to go, and is there going to be is there an end to it? Like, do you have a meta plot that you want to make sure that you're going to be able to tell?
I definitely plan on having an ending. That was like pretty much always been an absolute fact. Like I just didn't know when. I think it's actually going to be sooner rather than like. I don't want to say that because I don't know exactly. um, but I think I kind of have a pretty good idea of like where and how it's going to end at this point, and I think like how big of a bang it goes out with, I guess that really depends on how we agree, because we're still like arguing about certain things and what's gonna happen. But I have a pretty distinct kind of vision about what's gonna happen. So when planning out, usually like we have like kind of several storylines ahead. So like we do like chapters, which is like one issue, right? So one issue will be like 24 pages, usually is what we try to stick to. Sometimes there's a couple pages more or less, but we try to stick to that like kind of like traditional 24 pages. And we like write out an entire script. I use what's it called? A Superscript is the app I use, and you can use it to like write scripts for like movies or TV or comics or whatever you want. And it's been really nice because I can like show all the characters, and it like panels it out for you. So that's what I've been using. And then so we have like the 24 pages we work on, and then we have like the blurbs, and then I fill it in, and then we have like each page like I'll just add to it like as I do, you know. And then we'll just have like a Google document we both work on that'll just have like a kind of like a basic storyline going on. And then when we go to like actually work on the next chapter, that's when we bring it into the scripting, and then we fully flesh out the script and everything. And then from there, I storyboard, which is just like a couple doodles like on a page, which don't really make much sense to other than me. So, and then from there, I do like the full comic. So,
Let me ask you this: as an artist and a writer, do you find yourself writing the things that you like to draw, or how many times have you been in a position where the plot takes in a direction to make you draw something that you really don't like drawing, or not, or you've never actually drawn enough of, like, you know, limousines or dinosaurs or whatever? I mean, that's an example.
there's been a lot of places where I've had to look up stuff, like especially in the last couple chapters, where, without giving anything away, kind of took place over the course of several decades. Like they started at like the beginning of like World War II, and they went to like the 60s, and then it was like following this one woman and like her life story basically. And I had to look up a lot of stuff for like World War II because I didn't know like what every single weapon looked like or anything or stuff like that. And there's also a lot of research because so Juvenile Diversion takes place in the late 80s, but I'll go all over the place with the timeline. But that's kind of like the point. Like there's like a lot of time stuff going on. So it's not a time travel thing, but it's related. So it's time travel adjacent, I'll say, without giving anything away because I don't want to spoil things. But like I'll have to like look up like what events are happening, even though we're bringing fiction into the mix, but I still want to keep it like consistent enough to actual history. So I'll have to look up like actual events and things like props and like, yeah, like cars is a big one I have to look up anyways. Cars, buildings, stuff like that.
So yeah, to the audience. So we're talking to Heather Farrington, and she's telling, and we're talking about your book, your series, Juvenile Diversion. Give people a bit of a synopsis on what the series is about. What's on the back of the cover.
So in a nutshell, it's about. So here's the first page. Here's the. But so Juvenile Diversion, it's about these like 4 teens. In the beginning, it's about these 4 teens, and then they're in a band together, and they attend high school in the 80s, and they get into shenanigans, and it kind of seems like it's like kind of normal from there. But after that, like some things start getting mixed in. Like there's some like magical elements, but also sci-fi elements that get mixed in. Like I said, I don't want to spoil things away too much, but there's like a magical book, and there's like beings, I guess, that are like mysterious beings, and you don't know exactly what she is. Like, so like there's a character, Tara, and that's all I'll say about her, and she's very much involved in most of the plot of so you don't really know about her until later, but we kind of mix in her like as the time goes on. Like I said, that's the payoff. I'm done.
So what would you tell people to say if, you know, if they like this genre, then they would like this? What would you consider the juvenile diversion as a genre? Then it's almost sci-fi
Mix between different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe like if you like Scott Pilgrim, it'd be kind of like that. It's kind of like I also say like Kevin Smith movies, because I feel like I kind of have a lot of his humor like mixed in with it, especially with like my two main male characters, Jason and Kyle, and they're best friends, but they're also like, you know, Kyle at least is, you know, kind of a deviant. I guess it's a nice way of putting it. But you know, there's that, and then there's also like the two main girl characters, which are Alicia and Jenny, and they're also best friends. So, but then you have like their kind of conversations like mixed in. So, but the four of them are kind of like me, so they all kind of like came from me. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of different things. I feel like it's teen romance, but with like sci-fi and different kinds of things. Like there's definitely fantasy mixed in, and
right. So you mentioned earlier that you kind of pick, and you know, one of your advices is to say, you know, pick a, you know, stick to a schedule. It's very helpful, and not only is that for posting your work, but also when you want to sit down. So and like as you say, you pretty much spend one day, try to do one day of just doing artwork. Now, one thing that is that you've talked about, which you really that you find helpful, is being a part of different or groups, some different groups, and you're part of the Vermont Comic Creators, but you're also part of another group that they're connected with. Tell us a little bit about that one.
So Girls Drawing Girls is the one you're. So I am part of that group. I've been for the last few years, and Girls Drawing Girls is a collective of different women from around the world, actually, that are in all kinds of different fields. Like some of them are pretty like just starting out, like pretty amateur artists, but it goes all the way to people working in Hollywood, like making movies and like films for like Netflix and stuff like that. So all across the spectrum. I've been following a lot of these women for like probably about a decade, honestly. And then actually getting into it was like amazing. I don't even know how. But it's really like open for everyone. Like anyone that's like a woman and then that's also like into like drawing kind of pinup-y kind of women. Like their claim to fame is that they're like reinventing the pinup kind of thing for like a broader audience, I guess. But they're really supportive and really awesome, and everyone is very helpful and conversive. It's very much like the Vermont Comic Creators group. But they're very, like, the leader of the group, her name is Melody Severance. She puts together like tons of different like events and like galleries, and like opens up to all these different like jobs and opportunities, and it's really cool. So I like it a lot. I enjoy it. That's why I'm sticking with it. So
do you have like virtual meetups at all? How does that work? How do you all connect with each other?
I think they have meetups as like in person, or they did before everything. But the virtual meetups, I think they're still kind of like working out the logistics of everything. I think they're planning on doing some. It just hasn't really like come to like terms yet. And also it's hard with everyone's, and a lot of them live in California, but like there's people in like Australia and England and like all over the place. So getting a time to do it would be kind of difficult. So that's the one thing. I think it's easier to do the Vermont one because everyone's on the same time period, you know, the same clock. So, so yeah, I think that's like the only reason why it hasn't really. And then you're required to go to a meeting if you're like live in the area, but if you're like more than 50 miles away, they're like, we understand you can't make the meeting, kind of thing. So, But yeah, it's awesome.
And you guys like, like critique each other's works and help each other?
Yeah,
With
and
people?
everyone's like, yeah, you can like post, like if you're like drawing, the only thing that they don't want you to post is like fan art unless it's like absolutely calls for it or a specific thing that it calls for. But if you're drawing original art of your own characters, they're like, the post it by all means. We'll like post it on. They also have a mascot named Gigi, and she's usually depicted as like a blonde girl, like with pigtails, but you can draw her however you want, which I think is really cool, like in any race or gender. Well, as a girl, like, as as appearing as female, but but you can draw her like however like you wanted her to look, and I think that's always really cool, seeing everyone's different Gigis.
And so as you said, you've been doing this for a while now. And
Yeah.
what about talk to us a bit about your technique and your style. Where did you, and as you say, it's like that, as you compare, because you mentioned earlier that you're kind of redrawing some of your first issues of Juvenile Diversion.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get back to that part. But then I have a question about that. But have you, what artists kind of inspired your style?
One in particular, well, so you probably can notice that there's a few things that probably stick out. Especially in the beginning, my art definitely looked anime manga. But like as most, millennials growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, I also was into anime and stuff and still am. But I was kind of get that influence definitely like showed off in my artwork, but I always felt like I wasn't really like a manga artist. I always felt like I was more of a like cartoony, like kind of Western style artist. And so like as time went on, my style definitely evolved, and I've definitely gotten the Disney comments like way more recently, and I can definitely see it now. But yeah, Disney's a huge influence. But also another comic artist that I found when I was like an early adult is China Clugston Major, or she just goes by China Clugston now. But she made a comic called Blue Monday, and it was a huge influence. And it's also about a bunch of teens growing up in it's the early 90s for hers, but it's around that same time. So but they're all like, kind of snarky teenagers growing, but she kind of has the same thing where it's like I always like kind of joke that my comics like Archie, but with like teens like doing stuff that teens would actually do, like swearing and drinking, and yeah. So, but hers is kind of like the same kind of vein as that. So she was a huge influence.
And then she started also doing web comics as well.
I found her through Oni Press, like reading a lot of their comics, and they're like they still stand as one of my favorite publishers to this day. Because I do a lot of so I like a lot of like independent publishers, and Oni Press is like mostly about like kind of like the slice of life, kind of like just general fiction for everyone. Kind of I like superhero stuff, okay, and everything, but I definitely like the more like indie, like down to earth kind of like more about like people's lives and stuff, like way more. So that's where that came from, because I love their comics.
Do you feel as though, because you've been doing Juvenile Diversion now for quite some time, what's next for you? Do you have another series in mind, or are you going to start doing more commission work after you finish telling Juvenile Diversion?
I do have a definite idea for another comic, which I've been kind of like posting stuff about it here and there, but as I said earlier, like I have a full-time job, so it's really hard to find time to like do extra stuff. But I have definitely another idea, and I'll basically, my main thing is like I'm kind of limited having most of my main cast be like teenagers and like underage. I kind of tend to like lean towards like the adult like comic stuff more often. So I wanted my next comic to be a lot more like definitely rated R. Like you could kind of swing being PG-13 with JD, but with the new comic it would be like kind of like I'm kind of thinking like Sex in the City, but mixed with like nerd stuff. So like, and then it'd be like 3 like main characters definitely, and then they would work in a shop, and then there'd be like other characters coming in on a regular basis, and so it'd be like something I know really well, which would be retail, but like also mixing it with like geeky kind of stuff, which I'm into. If you can't tell by my wall. So. But yeah, that's the next idea, and I've been sticking with that for a couple of years. I've been working on it, but it's just been kind of slow going with not having a whole ton of free time, unfortunately.
So you do really like that whole slice of life genre, not
Yeah.
a lot of, yeah, never geared towards like superhero capes or
I have
sci-fi
I have
fantasy stuff.
another idea for like a superhero thing, but it'd be like a one shot, I feel, and I don't know how superhero-esque it would be. So I have a little bit of an idea, but I kind of like tried to dabble with it a little bit when I was younger. I tried, I think I showed you, Barney, the girls that were turned into different animals. Like, so I had like 5 characters, and it was probably like, hugely like influenced by Animorphs, like because I read that growing up and everything. And but these girls like had animal powers, like each one would have a different animal power. But yeah, that never really, I went like 2 pages and I was done.
Would you consider like your sequel, your next series, is that part of the same shared universe as JD?
I've been thinking about it. I'm not positive on that, so that would have to come in time figuring out like all the logistics. It definitely could be, but at the same time, like I said, JD takes place in the late 80s, and this would be definitely, that's the other thing, this one would definitely be modern, and it wouldn't be sticking to like, it'd be like a regular sitcom, like a cartoon sitcom you'd watch, and it's always like today, it'd always be like modern.
So talk to us a bit about just like you mentioned your influences, and and talk to us a bit now about like your technique. What does Heather do do you start drawing out with fancy pencils and pens, or do you, and with with fancy paper? Do you do it with paper? Do you do it straight on a tablet, or you do what? So, and how do you sit down and like create your page once you've done the outline of it in that storyboarding? How do you then create a page?
I do pretty much 100% of the comics in Clip Studio Paint. I used to draw them on paper, but as time went on, like the very first, at the beginning, I drew it on paper, then I maybe did a couple colors in Photoshop, then I started like just coloring on the whole thing, and like in just without inking. And then I started inking, and then I started doing, kind of like more and more as time went on. It was like more computer and less, but now it's 100% all on my graphics. So I have a graphics tablet. I have an XP pen graphics tablet, which is like a Wacom tablet, but it's a different brand, but 15 inches. It's like on my desktop right here, so it's like right in front of me. And I just do everything Clip Studio now, because Clip Studio is like, it's like the best thing I've found for comics. Like I don't think I could find anything better than that. I really love it. So it's like amazing for inking, and it like has all the features that you need for, like, it has like the speech balloons and everything like all built in. So, and you can make your panels however size you want and move around, and it's really awesome. So yeah, that's what I use.
Because you never used Photoshop at all, did you?
I used to use Photoshop until about, was it 4 or 5 years ago, maybe? And then, yeah, because I used to, basically what I did was I would sketch and ink everything in Clip Studio Paint, and then I would import it over to, or export it to Photoshop, and then do all the coloring and all the balloons and stuff in Photoshop. And then I realized that it looked way better. This was when it was still Manga Studio. So once it became Clip Studio Paint, I think everything changed, and their program became like way higher on the end for me. And, also pay for it once and then you're done. So that's the best.
Yeah. And you can so you're able to translate, things over to Photoshop like a PSD file. It still does
Yeah,
layer.
I don't even have it on my computer anymore because I had CS4 forever, and I never upgraded past that because I got it when I was going to college, and I was like, I can't afford another one. And then they started doing the monthly payments, and I was like, no, I'm not paying to not own anything. That's what it feels like. It feels like you don't ever own it, So Clip Studio Paint was like $100, and then that was it. I paid for the full program, and
And they usually have sales for that too. Sometimes.
yeah, exactly. It's like, please sponsor me, Clip Studio.
So give us a bit about, also talk to us a bit about some of your advice that you would give budding webcomic artists now that you wished you knew like 15 years ago.
Well, other than what I said, I mean, to me myself, like I don't even know. Probably like the same advice I gave earlier, which was like, try to be consistent, save all the big files. Plan out things better, I guess. Like plan out pages better would be another, because I didn't plan out the pages very well. I kind of just went, and now everything's like planned out way more, like thumbnail everything and do all that stuff. And yeah, I used to just kind of just wing it. It's like, it'll be fun. I used to just basically just draw the comic, like write the comic. Like I knew the general storyline, but I would write the comic as I went, like as I drew it, as I did the storyboard. And you can kind of tell, I think, when that changed. but yeah, that would be my main advice, I think.
So another piece, because you're, as I say, I mean, it's you're humble, but I'll say, but you're pretty well known in the webcomic world as well. So what would you recommend for people as not what medium, but what platform would you recommend people if they're going to be doing a long form webcomic series? What are some good platforms to connect with?
Like a website to upload, or
Yeah, things like that.
Well, I don't even know if the one I used is even around anymore. I used to use Comic Genesis. So if anyone even remembers that, they're fine. I just think they kind of like had favoritism a little bit, so they would like advertise you, or I guess if but it was free, so I couldn't really complain. So I don't know like too much more about it than that, really. But then 2011, I think it was. So yeah, it was a while ago. I got my own website, and I have WordPress and everything now, so I do all the comic press stuff and all that. But I definitely suggest doing your own website. I think that's just like in general, you have like control over everything, and there's so many ways to like set up your web page now that it's really easy. And like, you don't I actually went to school for website design, and I feel like it's like defunct now. All my knowledge of it like is like everyone knows now, or you can just do it like as you go. You don't even need to know like any coding or anything. So, yeah, I'd say definitely get your own. I mean, you can like do it through like people do through Instagram, or I guess Tumblr's still around, but I mean, also I guess Webtoon's also a good place too, because there's a lot of traffic going there. But the reason I couldn't upload there is because they don't like adult content. So that's like the main thing. Like not every page, like with my comic right now, it's like there's just like once in a while there'll be like one every like 50 pages or something. Like all of a sudden they'll be like, I can't put that on there. So
And how do you do that? And then also too, from the social media aspect, what have you found the more successful for you through the social media aspects for promoting your work?
Just been, I don't know. It's like a little bit here and there, like Twitter and Instagram right now. Well, I haven't really. I just started uploading the updates to Instagram, and I was like, because I was like, why not? I'm not really posting it. Facebook and Twitter were like really the only places I was uploading it. I feel like Twitter got maybe slightly more views. Facebook's such a a void of like maybe if you're lucky it'll show up, but Instagram's pretty good just because like a lot of people are on there all the time. You just have to use, like, I'm still learning myself, but you have to use the right hashtags, and I learned that people can block some hashtags so then you won't even show up at all, so you have to like not use the same. Like I said, I'm still teaching myself how to do it. So it's a learning process. But if anyone has any advice, definitely let me know because I'm still learning myself.
And so, and how, and one of the aspects that you another big chunk of what you do is a lot of like commission work and illustrations. So, talk to us a bit about like if people go to your your website hrfarrington.com, check it out. You have your commission works. You got all kinds of stuff. Some of you are where you've done conventions and appearances as well, and you've won. And this is one piece too. I think would be good advice as well. Is it's good to concentrate on putting your name, but this also is that you have a pretty robust local visibility here through Vermont. You put things into different art shows. You've submitted things to different contests and stuff like that. So what would you consider as well for that with your commission work? How has that gone for you? How is that if somebody wants to do like commission pieces? What would be your recommendation on how to advertise that aspect of what you do?
Well, you can go through my shop right now, which is hrfarrington.shop.site. I think that's what the link is. Square.site, sorry. hrfarringtonshop.square.site. You can get to the link from there or from my comic or wherever. But on there, I have a page that just says commissions, and you can see everything on there, and it'll like post all the stuff I will draw and I won't draw, and like general prices and stuff like that. And then at the top, there's all these examples of different things I've done for people. But generally, if you wanted to get one, I would just be like, okay, well, I will prove it first before you send me money because I don't draw everything, but I'll send you a sketch, and then once that gets approved, then I'll go ahead and do like the full piece and everything. For the galleries and everything, I think I've done okay. I sold a few pieces over time, but I don't do them like super frequently because it's hard to like make time for that. It's a time-consuming process, definitely, because you have to be there and you have to be there to drop it off. You have to like be there to pick it up. You have to all the different kinds of trips and everything. And I do live like about an hour away from Burlington, so it gets a little tough to like get to places like all the time. So like I said, I don't have a ton of free time, so but I mean I've won like honorable mention a few times in the Champlain Valley Fair, so it's good. It's I'm trying not to be salty about that one because it's like there's a couple times where I'm like I could have been doing it. But I don't want to like pat myself on the back too much because I don't want to. But they're fun though. I mean, like the going to the galleries are really fun because you get to like see everybody else's like artwork and be blown away by how amazing it is. I just draw cartoons, so I feel like it's like but I don't know. Maybe it's good to have like a different style in there mixed in with like everyone's kind of like traditional styles. And but I kind of like I love illustration as much as I love comics, so that's why I kind of just have hand in hand, they go together, and that's why I call myself both of them, because I mean I don't want to give up doing either of them. So
right.
Yeah.
And you have on there, I think this is important, that you actually put on there things that you have very specifics to say, I'll draw this, I won't draw this, and you're saying this is the price, this is. So do you find that works really well for you to actually have a defined like menu of prices for yourself? That's
a very deviant art thing, by the way. The will draw, won't draw. That's where that came from. Having like the specific prices for everything, I've been trying to like, it used to be way more like crazier than this. I keep kind of changing it every year, but I think it's kind of where I want it to be right now. I had like a full color, full bust, like full, all that stuff, and it's like every single different size. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is too many options. If you want something like different than this, that's fine. Just like, let me know, we'll figure something out. So I feel like this is a better approach, having just like a few different options, and then you can kind of like figure out from there, and then at least you have like a ballpark like figure of how much it's going to be. So that way it's not like, I don't come at you and it's like, here's your bill, like, but yeah, no, I think right now it's pretty good. I think it's pretty cohesive and it makes sense, hopefully. I mean, I haven't had too many people complain about it, so.
Well, it's funny, like looking at like the things that you won't draw. I mean, some of it makes a lot of sense, but you won't draw robots. I think that's kind of.
Well, okay, it's not that I mean, like I said, like huge crazy mechs and robots. But that's only just because I'm not like, I don't draw. So if you don't know what my art looks like now, I draw a lot of like curvy cute girls, like lots of colors and rainbows and everything. I don't, that's like the opposite of yeah, mechs. Yeah, I mean, I definitely probably couldn't draw your Transformer character very well. Like that's probably, not gonna yeah, I think that's just a general gist of it, but you would think that people would see your art and be like, oh, well, that would be a bad idea. But then I've had people like be like, can you draw my Mortal Kombat characters? I mean, I know it's not a robot, but it's like the opposite. I like draw cutesy stuff,
Right.
So that's why big bulky muscle men.
But if they wanted a chibi version of a Mortal Kombat.
I actually did draw a chibi version of a Mortal Kombat character for somebody one time. It's like, I don't know if this is what you wanted, but hopefully.
So yeah, so chibis, they're like the little cute, like 8-bit looking Nintendo looking.
Yeah, they're basically like an adult, usually like an adult character, and it's different than a child. I want to emphasize, like it doesn't, like the way I draw chibis is definitely like you can tell it's an adult because they'll still have like all the curves there and everything, but basically their heads are like really big, and then the bodies are like the same size of the head. That's like generally like the proportions people use.
It's like it's like a 2-dimensional version of like a Funko Pop.
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, but
yeah.
obviously they have a very specific style to it.
Yeah, but they have mouths.
So what's next? What's next for hrfarrington.com? What can people expect from you in the upcoming months? You got some virtual shows. I know that you're doing. You just did one.
Yeah. I just did one at the end of June, and that was CouchCon, and that was pretty fun. They're also planning on doing another one at the end of this year, so I hopefully plan on doing that one again, because if they're going to be doing it like as much as I might as well, I luckily I had a couple of days off, so I was able to actually like go in, and it's really cool because they have like a whole Discord thing, and then you can just go in and like talk with people, or you can talk with other artists, and then just go watch people's panels through Zoom or through Facebook or whatever they're streaming on. Twitch, I think, is a pretty big one that people use. And then it's really easy like chatting with people, and I didn't have any issues. I had a couple commissions for it and had no problems with like understanding each other, what was happening, and I was like, it was good. Like it wasn't expensive, and then I'm doing another one next month for the GMSS like online bazaar. So I'm not sure if that one's gonna go because I heard too much from them, but like you'll know more about it than I will, I'm sure. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully that'll go well. I'll probably just keep advertising my shop site. I'll probably more than likely put up another code, like a discount code for the duration of that, because that's what I did for CouchCon. And then I'm working. I do have, like I said, I have 4 books. I've been as much as I can, but working on the 5th book. I really want to get that done. It's just like tough with like so much going on. I've got a lot of family stuff going on too. But it's slowly coming together. I know people have been, I have a few people that read my comics and they've been like very patiently waiting, and they come up to me and they're like, is it done yet? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, it's not. And I'm like, I'm working on it. I definitely plan on getting it done. So yeah, that's still in the process. There was a few things I had planned coming out this year. But now with like COVID, it seems kind of, I don't know. I'll bring it up. Like, so I had every day last year, I drew in a diary, like a diary comic, and I made an entire year's worth of comics, basically. Like, it wasn't much. Like some days were just like, I don't even know what I'm drawing. Like, it's like I feel like blah, you know. But I would try to do every single day, and if I didn't get one day, I would go back and just do it, fill it in, you know. But I have a year's worth, and I was gonna call it 2019 my year in pajamas. But I don't know. It seems kind of weird, like putting it out. I don't know. I still plan on like finishing it at some point, but I have like that I'm working on, and then I've got like several different like little art books. Like I have the Monster Girls one, which is my Inktober from last year, so I'm working on that. And I think another art collection, because I have a bunch of my sketches. I was planning on putting us together like a sketchbook for all my like convention sketches over the years, like the first one, and then like, and then it ended up being like, who knows when the next one will be. So I don't know when.
So, but that's a good point, because when you do a commission, is that part of the deal by saying, just so you know, this is yours, but I can use this as a reproduction, or how does it work?
That is how commissions work. Like if you're drawing art for someone, you own the art. That is technically, because you drew it. It's your creation. Like I haven't had anyone tell me don't post it or anything. I mean, I would say like, okay, that's fine. I won't post. But it seems it's you're advertising for yourself by like posting for other people's artwork that you're working on, so it does seem a little weird. But I don't know, I've never had anyone like complain or anything. That I think most people want you to, when I commission someone else, I want them to post it. I'm like, please link to me, like link all my things. This is why I commissioned to advertise for me, because I kind of think of it as advertising for myself.
Okay. Yeah. And so, because I know like on your shop, you do have like some things you did, like was it the Brovember and the Mermaid May?
The little art books?
Yeah, the art book.
Yeah.
And you also have, and you also have on here too, talk to us a bit about your Patreon. So I want people to
I was saying, so my Patreon is adult. You can, I think you have to be 18 to even look at it. I think that's like generally how it works. This is where I post like pretty much the things I'm working on. The comics, I'll post them when I finish them, rather than Friday midnight. Those when they always come up, but they'll get them earlier than that. And then I'll post like like just sketches of things that are like being like worked on, or like this is what it looked like before this. So like those, like some things, some artwork goes through like several phases, so I'll post that too. And then they get like like the higher you post, like the higher you back, because there's 4 different tiers for it, the more you get, obviously. But like the highest tiers, like the $10 ones, they get like a sketch every month. I'll send them in the mail. I'll send them a little sketch that I draw. And then they also get a postcard, and I usually just do that of like one of my most recent artworks. I'll just print it out and I send them a postcard of it. So it's like a little mini print basically. And they also get like shout outs on my YouTube, and everyone's like listed on my comic page and all that stuff. So
Great. And you do a lot, and I gotta say, just to let people know, is that check out your website, hrfarrington.com, because you also, out of a lot of the people that we've we see at tables, you got like a veritable store of items. You got pins, you got buttons, you got all kinds of things. Yeah, postcards of different sizes, and you got books and all. It
Yeah,
really is. It's like it's a pop-up store. It really is. Yeah.
basically. It's almost like Dean says I have too much stuff. He's probably right. I like trying out different things. I guess I do have a button maker now at home, so I make my own buttons. But I knew they were like kind of like a big seller, but they're fun to make too, and they're fun to like come up with like your own designs. And just when I have like some silly saying or something, I just want to put it on a button. Like it doesn't really warrant a whole print, but a button is like perfect. So, and also they're like, a cheap, easy thing and everyone can just put a button anywhere. So, um, but yeah, like I obviously have like a ton of prints on there, and there's like things I've tried in the past. Like I tried like making pillows one time. That didn't, I don't know, those didn't really work out, and they're huge. So I
But you made stickers too.
recommend that.
Yeah.
The stickers I have a lot of, but again, those are easy. So I like the small things because they're easy to carry around. But I just had here. I've been working on these. Here's one that's finished, but I've been working on these. I finally got some charms. So I've been making charms too, but again, this is like kind of like so many things have like taken a backlog since like COVID started, and
Right.
so I have this whole pile of stuff over here I'm working on, but it's like eventually I'll get to it. So I am pretty good about keeping like an organization of things, but at the same time it's hard to like really keep up with everything. Sometimes you just get like awash with like projects. I like to start things and not finish them.
Well, so where can people so we're wrapping up our hour. So people can find you at, and we mentioned earlier, hrfarrington.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people can.
That's my portfolio.
Okay.
Yep. So my two main websites are hrfarrington.com, which is my portfolio, and then from there you can like find all the other links to everything. And then jdcomic.com, which is my comic. And like I tell everybody, sometimes it's not safe for work, so don't open it up at work. There's nothing like ridiculously graphic. It's not graphic porn or anything. but there's definitely some pages that are questionable, and maybe your boss will be walking by like, what are you looking at? Kind of thing. So just fair warning. I think it's okay for teens, but again, that's up to people's judgment. So everyone's different.
You said, because you basically, as you say, you do. It's every issue is about 24 pages.
Yeah, about 24 pages. Yeah.
And you do 50, and you push it weekly. So you basically put out 2 books a year then.
Well, yeah, like I said, if I'm redrawing them, so I'm like redrawing the first 10 issues, so, and I've got 4 done, so technically I have 6 left. But yeah, I mean, I could put out 2 a year, and that was the goal, like a couple years ago. It's just been like kind of like getting behind on that, and it's been tough because it really worked out well with like Vermont Comic Con, and now that that's not existent anymore, I don't have like a date to like push me towards that. So I'm like trying to like give myself a date where I'm like, this is when I have to get it done by, because I work really well having a deadline, honestly, because then I know how to plan for it, how to like get to that point, and like, because I don't like no, I'm gonna get it done by then, and that's like so. Of course, I've like made myself sick doing that before, so I don't know if it's like the healthiest way to go about doing things, but yeah. But
do you have an idea of when you stop redrawing, with how many issues, to the point where you say, all right, at issue 6, I'm happy with how that looked, or is there something that you're?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of at this point, I'm just like, I do a page and I'm done. I'm good. So, usually I'll like when I'm doing like when I've been doing the redraws for like the remasters versions, like the actual printed books, I'll like just sketch them all, like completely sketch them all, and then if I have to change anything, then I'll change it, and then I'll just ink and color it all like in whatever order, but usually in just order at this point. But I try to like sketch the whole thing first. Right. And then get that.
You're not gonna redraw issue 10. I mean, like.
I don't know. I
because your work is always gonna get is always going to evolve.
The main reason why 10 was the cutoff was because I changed my style completely in 11, and that's kind of closer to what my style is now. So if you look at the end of 10 to the beginning of 11, it's like it looks like a different person. Because I was like, I had to change it because I didn't like my style anymore, and I was like, I know that's sometimes frowned upon on like art, like in the world, like, you shouldn't just like change it. But it was like, I kind of didn't really know what I was doing at the beginning, and then it all just kind of came together. So I don't know. I'm doing everything you're not supposed to, so I don't know. But I do love it. It's a labor of love, and I wouldn't redraw it, and I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't enjoy it. So, it gives me time to like watch YouTube and stuff. So,
And you do have a link to your YouTube channel, correct?
It's a really weird long because I don't have enough people to like monetize.
You need like 100 subscribers.
Yeah, so you can get to that from either my Patreon or my just my regular website. Or through, I have links to it everywhere. Like I have links on like my Twitter, and but like most things are linked to other things. So yeah, it's not hard to find like all the things. I think if you go right at the beginning of my Patreon, it says like all my links to everything. Like it's like at the top of the page. So
go to your You also have it on your HR Farrington page as well.
Yeah.
Links there. Your Facebook, your Twitter, your Pinterest. Ooh,
here it is. Oh yeah. Well, the Pinterest I don't really advertise because that was just kind of like it's my own personal kind of just fun stuff.
So if anybody's out there listening, so check out Heather's stuff at hrfarrington.com. If you're looking at something that you're thinking about doing a commission for, she's great at all that. She's great at all that stuff. Her ongoing series, Juvenile Diversion, is fantastic. Definitely, you're going to get lost for hours and hours reading that. So
it's over 700 pages now.
It's over 700 pages.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Heather. It was great talking to you again, and I'm looking forward to seeing your new issues coming out. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Like, well, I was talking about the spicy sandwich once. I was like, how spicy is it? He's like, do you want to die? and then Dean ordered it because he's like, well, what the hell? I'm gonna leave. And then I actually like just got some on my fingers because it was like I like reached, I don't know, and then it burned my fingers. So I was like, I don't know if it was like a ghost pepper was on it or something ridiculously hot. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was like, I'm literally dying. So I guess the challenge was if you could eat the whole thing without drinking water or something, you like get it for free or something along that line, But like I guess one person was able to I was like, no, this is impossible.